The Hangout is now live. We're having some technical issues, but we're getting there. And we're going to hit play on that. Okay. Fun and games, really is. Okay, welcome along, everybody. We're just going to open up the chat room as well. Chat room's up and running. Chat room.
Hello? Yes.
So yes, we've got two guests.
Yeah, don't ever call this number again, please.
Okay. Okay, we've got a no-show, and we've got some technical issues with the mic, who I suspect, if our other guest shows up, I'll speak to him first, and I'll let Alyssa and Rob try and sort out the technical issues in the background. But we'll get there, I suspect. So, typing backwards and forward. Anyway, welcome along, everybody. It's a pleasure to have everyone here. We've got the Hangout up and running, and we've got ourselves under English. Just uploaded Worthing Comic-Con pictures. Didn't even know Worthing had one. Trade Lindus from South Dakota. We've got Dan Berry asking if Alyssa got a haircut.
I did.
There you go. That's the answer to that.
Yeah,
there you go.
I can't hear anything.
That was covered. That was covered.
See, I'm just trying to work with Rob here, trying to get his microphone working.
Andrew, greetings and salutations to all those present at the closing of the day. Cedric Carmichael, everyone from Cali, Ian O'Hara, woo, SDCC, good grief, it's this month. It's this month, everybody. As well. Oh, hello.
Was that you, Rob?
That sounded encouraging.
Properly.
Yeah, yesterday, small, packed, but fun. Excellent. Comic-Con. I'm a little bit peeved, actually, because I wanted to go to Bradford Literature Festival, which had a comics section that took place as part of the Bradford University. Yes, some quite good names at all. Scott C, crazy that Comic-Con is almost here. Same for D23.
I don't know what to do at this point.
D23's here earlier.
It's a Google thing. It's not on my computer because I'm getting audio. You can hear me.
Right.
Yep.
Can you call me on the phone and I can listen and you can talk to me that way?
Right. Can you, Leonard, can you try doing an invite to him, how I had to get into the Hangout last week?
That's how I did it first time around.
For Rob?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not click on the link in Google, in my Gmail to get in.
Check out
you sent a hard link in the chat, and that's how I got in.
Hello.
We can hear you.
I see you just did something on your end to adjust the audio level, but I still can't hear anything here.
Yeah, and at this point, he can't see me reacting.
Right.
So, Alyssa, you're going to have to.
Yeah, I'm giving Rob the thumbs up. But do you understand what I'm saying, Leonard? Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Can you just hang on 1 second? We're trying to work out a technical problem with Rob. Leonard, can you actually call him in Google and see if we can get him in that way, and maybe that.
So I'm
I
late, by
don't
the way.
think you can. Not while I've got an active call going.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry I'm late, by the way.
You can. Let's see, Rob.
I'm trying to work out a way we can do this.
I'm going to ask Rob if he can join us on his phone.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. So anyway, so everyone else.
Wait a minute, I have an idea.
Oh. And there we go. He vanishes.
Like magic.
Like
Well,
magic.
he's tried 2 different computers, so it's something with the settings.
Yes, there's something
Yeah,
going on.
I'm sorry I'm late. I had to kill a spider that was sitting on my wall. And
It's
that
all about
My
that
family,
little
I am so obsessed with bugs and not going near bugs. And yes, I totally get I had to. It takes.
it was this big.
Yeah.
It was this big, and just sitting on my effing wall, just like looking at me, and I'm like, I cannot do the show without.
Spider there. It's like I can't.
Yeah.
Do it. No.
So like I had to like move my fan and everything and be like, you come over here, right here. Come here.
It's a wasp for me. It's a wasp. If there's a wasp in the house, I cannot. I have to like leave the house and have somebody go in there and kill it for me.
I once went up to my best friend who lives like a minute away from me when I had 2 spiders sitting on the wall. Like I don't know if they were trying to make babies or something, but like you need to get over here right now. Use your fist, whatever. Just kill him. Just get him out.
Right. Guys, I wanted to keep the chat to a minimum this week because we've got a shit ton to talk about.
Well,
Hey, he
start
gets a curse.
How
gets a
come
curse.
you're slacking?
And we're talking spiders and bugs and stuff.
You mean the one that's sitting right behind you?
What?
I made him look.
I don't do spiders at all. Anyway, hello
Hell,
there,
no one
everybody.
knows
Welcome
spiders.
to Talkin Comic-Con. A cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. It is not a cup of tea. It's a pint of vodka. After this week, it's a pint of vodka or poutine or something or anything heavily alcoholic because this week has been insane. Welcome along. We are talking 19 days to San Diego Comic-Con 2017. It's the 2nd of July. It's this month. We are weeks away. It's insane. Lots to talk about today, so we are going to dive straight in. We also have hopefully another guest who's going to be joining us to talk certainly about the announcement from the mayor's office and from CCI that was earlier on this week, and we're also going to be talking about the various legal issues that have happened with Comic-Con. We'll hopefully talk to Rob very shortly indeed, but let's go to our other guests first who have joined us. We have Alyssa Franks from the Friends of Comic-Con Forum. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
Well, dealing with bugs, we personally have the mosquito. It's because I have to. We have mosquitoes. We have black flies. We have ticks. 2 types of ticks. We have no-see-ums. My personal favorite, these little buggers just come out and bite you at all hours of the day. And then, of course, there's Andy's favorite. I'm going to throw it to Andy right now. Spiders.
You know what? Shall I tell you something? I'm okay with spiders because it's Spider-Man this week.
It is Spider-Man this week. Yeah.
I'm okay with spiders if they're tricked out with Stark technology. There you go. That's the way I'm going to go for it.
Perfect segue to Andy, our Marvel reporter.
Indeed, Andy Bayback is joining us as well. Hello, Andy. How are you?
She had to bring up spiders again. Hi. How you guys doing? I'm doing really well. If anyone was wondering why we're talking about spiders, because
still no sound.
Oh my word! Yeah, we're having technical issues.
Sorry, I don't know what else to do. Can you call me?
I haven't got your number, so Alyssa may have to do that. Or can he use his phone?
Andy, I'm going to mute myself for a bit. Enjoy your talk of spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I was late was because...
Can you guys call me on the phone?
We're on it, Rob. Hang on. Right. So, yeah, okay. So, go on, Andy. You were saying.
Yeah. The reason I was late was because there was a giant spider sitting on my wall, and I cannot do shows when there are spiders out on my wall just staring at me. So, like, I just, like, panicked. I killed it. There was screaming involved, not from the spider, but it was from me. So yeah. So now me and Alyssa were sharing our stories on bugs.
Your phobias. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean,
Play the
it's
sub.
the thing is, the question I was asking both yourself and Alyssa was, yeah, how's the week been in terms of preparation for Comic-Con?
Yeah.
And now we're talking just bugs. So how's
Yeah,
the
so I
site
can.
been?
So my speakers are working. It's set to the right speaker.
I'm just gonna put that on mute. So yeah, so how's Marvel Report been dealing with this, with the news this week?
Yeah, no, it was interesting. A lot of us were disappointed that Shield isn't going, but we got an explanation that, which I'm sure we will be talking about in a bit. And you know, yeah, so that was like the shocker of it all, that that Shield isn't going for the first time in 5 years. So, but otherwise, we're all excited. You're bringing so many amazing programming from Marvel Television, and I'm sure there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of great Marvel films too. But we will, TBA, as they like to call it on their schedules.
Indeed.
But I've been just stressed about DC TV. So, but it's been a good week in terms of like news and so. It's going to be an exciting Comic-Con.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's just dive straight into it, because we have got so much we have to talk about today. So we're just going to we'll just dive straight in. The big announcement from Marvel that came this week, what they're going to be bringing to Comic-Con, of the small screen stuff. We have several shows that are going to be showcased, including the Inhumans. We're going to be getting The Gifted, and of course Marvel's Defenders and Marvel's Spider-Man on the other arms of Marvel. Very quickly to go through the schedule. When it comes to panels, you have on Thursday in Ballroom 20 from 5 till 6 you have Legion. 15 to 7:15 Ballroom 20 you have Marvel's Inhumans. So it's very much the live action stuff in there, in terms of it's basically between both panel days, something new, something old. So we've got ourselves Legion and Inhumans on the Thursday.
Something borrowed.
On Friday you have in Ballroom 20 from 3:45 to 4:45 you have The Gifted, which is the new X-Men themed show. Which is Ballroom 20, I think, is an interesting room to put that in, especially when you've got Marvel's Defenders in Hall H. Don't you? I thought it would have been very much like the Thursday. They would have been better suited, so like side by side, if you know what I mean. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I was confused because I'm like, wait a minute, Legion and Gifted are both Fox. I mean, FX, Fox, but they're still owned by the same network. So I was like, well, why wouldn't you just put them on Thursday and then you take Inhumans and Defenders for Friday? So it was I mean, maybe it's actors availability, maybe it's something like that, but it's also like, these actors. It might also just be a splitting up of the companies as well. So at least then you're not just having a a Fox day and a Netflix day. You're kind of separating between the two. I guess that works, but I would have preferred if it had been Legion and Gifted, and then Friday Inhumans, and because it's like when you're doing it from a press mode and so on, like you always have to get into different mindsets with each of these networking companies. Not speaking ill of them, just saying it's like it's a different entity. There we go. I was politically correct there. So yeah, but I'm interested. I'm excited for the fact that Defenders got Hall H out of all of them. Yeah, I mean, admittedly, you have got the amount of talent that's involved when it comes to that show, because at the end of the day, it's effectively these small screen Avengers. You have Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist all together in the one panel, and you kind of get it. It's kind of going to be a big melding pot of all that talent. Hall H, it's on a Friday. It's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, can we all kind of put our hands up whether it'll fill that room? What do we think? Yeah. Oh well, there's Rob straight away. He's definitely up for a filling of Hall H. I mean, I think Ballroom 20 would have been an absolute lock. Hall H, I think, is a little bit of more of an interesting proposition. So that's cool. And then on the Saturday you have Marvel Animation in terms of all of the output from that particular end, but also you're going to be getting Marvel's Spider-Man
which is revealed. But you also have Marvel Spider-Man getting its own dedicated panel on the Sunday, which is going to be in room 6A. Yeah, I think a lot of people are very interested in the Spider-Man animation because of the way that the style that they're bringing to it, and also the possibility of Miles Morales being introduced into the series as well. So lots of things being introduced into that. But I think a lot of people are very curious as well, and has been correctly spotted, that we've got signings which are taking place down on the Marvel booth. Take place on the Thursday between 6:15 and 7:15, and the signing event for the Inhumans is the next day, first thing on the morning, 10 a.m., which people have kind of noticed that they're kind of doing interesting things with the timings of the signings. They're not doing it directly after the panel. They're definitely wanting to try and get people to almost do both, as it were.
I thought it was interesting the fact that it was interesting the fact that the Punisher is listed for a signing but not a panel. So yes. I wonder if John Burfell is going to go crash another panel like last year. And I mean, I love John Burfell and so, but it was just, for me, I kind of I rolled my eyes a little bit when I heard he crashed a Luke Cage panel. I'm like, can we give our brother at least one like solid 30 minutes or hour without any other defenders breaking in and yo, I'm coming too. But yeah, we will have to wait and see what happens.
Sure. Of course, in the chat room, do let us know what your take on this in terms of what you would prefer to do. Would you prefer to do the signings? Would you prefer to do the panels? Are you actually going to try and do both? Perhaps are you absolutely the Marvel head to have a crack at that? But those were the panels that were announced today. Earlier on in the week. There was a day where it just seemed to be nothing but announcements, almost on a half-hour basis. It was just ridiculous. They just rolled out. There was just so many. Netflix announced their output coming to Comic-Con. In terms of, let me just to see if I can bring this up. I can't seem to find it now. Bear with me a second. If someone wants to bring up the Netflix output, because the other one was FX as well, which I was going to do next. So we can do FX, which is Strain and Archer is definitely one of the headlines for that. Bear with me a second on this. This sounds awfully ill-prepared, doesn't it? But we're kind of balancing all sorts of technical issues as well. But no, it's the Strain and Archer and also Legion as well, because obviously Legion does form the FX, the output. Strain is going to be coming to a panel on Thursday between 3:45 and 4:45. And then you've got Legion following that. And then on Friday, you have Archer in Indigo Ballroom, which does seem to be the traditional home of all the animation output. So Archer is going in there from 5:15 to 6 p.m.
I just wonder how many people are going to camp out in Ballroom 20 for Legion and Inhumans.
I can imagine a lot.
To be honest, yeah. I don't know if I don't expect to be as much as people would think. I mean, look, Legion has a huge fan following. I think Inhumans will too. I mean, look, I'm already. I mean, let me see if I can bring them up because my first Funkos that I bought were my two Black Bulls.
Yet that's later.
Yeah, no, these are old. These are old. I got them at WonderCon. But I think that if you want to go to Inhuman, because heck, I knew tons of people that were able to get into the Shield panel last year without having to really line up or something. So I'm sure people can get into both. But I don't expect the lines to be whole age long, if you know what I mean.
I wonder if they put in some high fan base shows earlier on in the day. It would be interesting to see what kind of fan bases will compete with Legion and Inhumans. I know the 100 is on a different day, but just trying to kind of envision what the whole day is going to look like in Ballroom 20, because
Hollywood Reporter has already started rolling up their listings, and of course you've got the unofficial blog doing theirs as well. Let's go to the Friday. I mean, in Ballroom 20, from 10 while 11, you've got Psych. You've got iZombie from 11:15 to 12:15. Get rid of that. We've got that 100 between 12:30 and 1:30. The Gifted between 3:45 and 4:45. Yeah, it's going to be a very busy day. Ballroom 20 on the Friday is just going to be insane. One thing I have noticed that's missing there, obviously you've got a little bit of a gap between the 100 and Gifted. Something that hasn't been announced yet is a Buffy panel, a Buffy 20, which you would have assumed would have been on the Friday, because that's traditionally when you have your anniversary panels. Just having a quick look through Saturday Ballroom 20, which is Riverdale, The Simpsons, Family Guy and American Dad, Star Trek Discovery, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, The Flash, Arrow. Saturday is just going to be ridiculous. So, yeah, that's Ballroom.
That sounds pretty light. Sounds pretty light.
Yeah.
So there we go. So there is that rather conspicuous gap on the Friday, which, if there's ever going to be a Buffy reunion panel, that is, I suspect, where it's going to hang out. Before we go any further, I just want to check. Hear us.
I can hear you. I can see you. All is good. You hear me?
Excellent stuff. Good stuff. We are going to say hello very shortly indeed. So no, I didn't want you to just sort of be sat there and wondering what on earth. But yes, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Bit of interesting news that the blog publicized was that we weren't going to be getting a Star Wars Last Jedi panel.
Right, I got there too. I'm sorry. I'm gonna jump in there. I got there as well.
I'm sorry.
I posted about the same time, if not shortly before them, on the same thing. I get the sneaking suspicion we got the same source on this as well. But yes, basically, I know.
Attention.
Really, basically, you know, I was gonna cover it later on with the films, but yes, it is looking like Lucasfilm are not going to be bringing any panels to San Diego Comic-Con because they are going to be focusing on the booth in terms of whatever they bring in terms of Star Wars and The Last Jedi and Han Solo. Dan Berry, Leonard got it first.
Leonard shot first.
Of course, I bloody did. Anyway, but no, it's something I was going to cover later on because I want to talk about the balance between D23 and Comic-Con. So we'll come back to that.
Can I just bring up one quick thing on the Friday that I got really excited about that I want people to make sure they know about? On Friday at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. If anyone was a huge fan of Young Justice, the animated show on Cartoon Network that got prematurely canceled, thanks for the Cartoon Network. No grudges. I just don't want any of your programming anymore. They're going to be there at Comic-Con at room 6BCF. 6BCF. Yeah, so like, and as someone who's a huge supporter of that show, if you're looking forward to Young Justice Outsiders, the first season of the show, you should definitely make sure you hit that panel and show your support because we don't want to lose Young Justice again. Like, we don't want to lose the show because toys weren't selling or whatever. So it's like, be sure to go there if you're a huge animation fan. Yeah. That's all. Okay.
Right. Well, I was going to talk about panels a little bit later as well. We did have a script. Honestly, we had a script.
I am unscripted. You need to listen to Flash Plug and you will hear that at least I'm not scripted.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's very quickly then cover the Netflix stuff announced. We knew that we're having a booth for the first time. fantastic, but we weren't too sure what they were going to bring, because I wondered if they were going to concentrate on the films and the original content of Netflix. But as it happens, they are very much sticking to the genre stuff. They're bringing immersive experiences. So there is a number of off-sites that you can do. There's a upside down VR experience, which is going to be taking place, and also the streets of New York as the Defenders see them. You're going to be able to find them in the Hilton Gas Lamp on Thursday, Friday, all day, and from Saturday, Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is great if you have something to do in the evening. So you've got those taking place, and they're also going to be bringing a 360 experience to the booth. The actual content that they're bringing in terms of the films, you've got the original movie Bright, starring Will Smith, Joel Edgerton, Noomi Rapace, Lucy Fry, Edgar Ramirez, and David Ayer, all going to be showing up. This is Hall H at 3:15 on Thursday. Thursday is showing extremely strong already in terms of what they've got coming. You've got a Defenders panel, which is going to be, we've already talked about, but that is a Netflix event, so that's why it's listed in the Netflix stuff. And Stranger Things will be coming on Saturday, right in the center of the programming of Hall H at 3 o'clock, which I think is extremely interesting, which means we may be bounced any kind of anniversary panel, or we may be bounced the Women Who Kick Ass panel from Hall H, which I know is a big, I know Eddie Ibrahim is a big proponent of that particular panel. So whether it's been bounced or if it's been moved later on in the day, who knows? But you usually have your bookends of Warner Brothers and Marvel. Right in the center, you have Stranger Things at 3 o'clock. Let's see what else we've got. Of course, anything else that you want to jump in when it comes to the stuff in the Q&A, do let us know. Is there anything that's kind of jumped out at you, Rob, in terms of content that that's been announced this week?
You know, I've just been kind of poring over those announcements. I think that Defenders thing is going to be the sleeper hit of the show. I think there's a huge amount of pent-up excitement about that, and people want to see all these characters together. This will be the first chance to do that. So I would not be surprised if that gets a good crowd at Hall H. And the Stranger Things folks have been making the tours of other conventions, and they've been filling these big rooms. And I'm not at all surprised to see them at a marquee position, because I think that fan base for that show is just enormous, and people want to hear about the next series.
I think the one thing, I mean, obviously we have yet to have more movie announcements, and it has been mostly the television stuff that we've been announced this week. But the strength of the television in all the big rooms has just blown me away. It's just been, I mean, we also got the announcement, was it on Saturday, regarding Doctor Who coming to Hall H with the last chance to meet up with Peter Capaldi, because obviously he's going to be moving on at the end of this series. I'm not going to make any comments about the finale that happened yesterday. Oh, yes. Yes, he's scheduled to bow out certainly after the Christmas special. So I think it's fun that we're going to get Peter Capaldi, but the question then becomes, will we be getting the new Doctor at the panel, or will that be held off for the season finale?
I hope they do. I hope they don't do it at Hall H, because I want that to be Capaldi's last thing. Like, I don't want anyone to just crash it or whatever. Plus, it was fun in a way when they what was it, a few years ago with the Capaldi's announcement, they made it like some sort of televised event that they took like forever to like introduce a new Doctor. They were just like, so what do you think about the new Doctor? Yeah, they are exciting and whatever. And then, you know, an hour later we finally found out. So, but I know. I mean, they might announce before Comic-Con who's going to be the new Doctor.
Yeah,
they announce it at Comic-Con. It would really say something about how BBC views the strategic importance of that relationship, because that's their big attention getter ever. So yeah, for them to do
but
that,
also the financial the financial investment to actually put it into Hall H, especially when you also then do it as a double header with Dirk Gently, which, quite frankly, I expect quite the exodus after Doctor Who. Dirk Gently's good, but it's not Hall H good.
Is it gonna be like that when that time when J.J. Abrams was like, after his panel, like he gave like, hey, you want to go to the concert, and then like everyone left before Kevin Smith's panel. He's like, oh great.
So yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I mean, admittedly, you do have the cast: Samuel Bannett, you've got Elijah Wood, you've got the showrunner Robert Cooper, you've got Hannah Marks, Fiona Durf, and you've got Max Landis showing up for. We'll move on from him. Showing up for Dirk Gently. I think it's interesting that they've moved it from 6BF to Hall H, and I'm just wondering if it is going to be a full hour for Doctor Who, or, and this is something I put forward, and someone said no, it's going to be the full hour, half an hour each. So BBC America have made the investment for an hour panel only, because they haven't announced any times in terms of how long the panel will actually go for. What do we think? Is it going to be 2 separate panels or one big BBC America panel? What do we think?
I tend to think we'll just have 2 separate panels, but it could very well segue easily from one to the other. So there won't necessarily be a break between them, but there'll be a reshuffling of the stage, for example.
Andy?
I have not heard of the other show after Doctor Who, mostly because, I mean, I love Elijah Wood. Not so much as I don't write on that show. So, I don't really have anything to add there. Like, I think it makes sense what Leonard is saying. 30 minutes each, because how much can you actually talk about Doctor Who when you're like, because I mean, Stephen Moffat, you know how he is, like, he's hard on those spoilers, and they're gonna have their Christmas specials. They're probably like gonna show a trailer, do a quick Q&A, talk a little bit, and then I could see, like what Leonard was saying, 30 minutes each, because there's gonna be so much going on at Hall H that's Saturday. Is BBC doing on Sunday or Saturday?
This is let me just check. It was actually, I did actually write it in. Hang on one second. I believe it's the Sunday. Sorry, no, it's the Sunday.
Okay, well then I could see them do an hour each, but it depends. I mean, I know Supernatural is doing Sunday too, I guess. But then I don't know what else they could do. But I mean, I think Leonard's idea makes probably more sense, because if I'm Doctor Who, like, yes, you want to promote as much as you can, but at the same time, what can you actually do for an hour without getting it, without it feeling like daft or whatever? But I mean, do you think they can do much for an hour?
Rob's pulling a face as if to say, "Oh, I don't know about that."
I mean, what can they do for an hour?
I mean, it makes sense from a marketing perspective to try and stampede the Doctor Who audience into Dirk Gently, because Dirk Gently needs the help, but I just feel like this is Capaldi's last hurrah. They'll do a they'll do a highlight reel of his greatest moments. I mean, I think there's a way to milk that and get and spend the time for his fans and for him, because that's what it's about. So if I were there to see that, I would be a little disappointed if somebody cut in half the time for a property that I may not be as interested in.
Yeah, I'm actually also very curious to see whether Moffat will be showing up, because obviously there's other opportunities and other things that he can talk about. Andrew Dickinson is quite right in saying, will he be talking about Dracula, perhaps, which is going to be the next project which he's doing.
No Sherlock?
Sorry?
Sherlock.
Isn't he working on Sherlock anymore?
Gone. Sherlock's done. Sherlock is finished. So no, the end of that series pretty much drew a line under Sherlock. No, Dracula is his next project, which he's going to be doing with the League of Gentlemen, Mark Gatiss. So that's their next project. I mean, they work well together. If you've seen Jekyll, which is a stunning miniseries, That was a great show of theirs. They work well together. Their writing blends nicely. So I think Dracula could be an interesting project for them. The question then becomes when he'll be bringing that up. Will it be bringing it up as part of this? Will it be an announcement as part of the BBC America panel? Andrew Dickinson's asking, why not do Dirk first? It's a bloody good question. Go on then, you were about to say something, Rob.
Well, remember that BBC is not the only stakeholder in Dirk Gently. That's an IDW series. It's the first one that they have done the direct production on. They're kind of a big player in the Comic-Con space now too, so they may have an interest in getting that promoted. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see exactly when the announcement is of who's going to be on that, what's going to happen with it.
And that is a question that's been just asked on the Q&A. The Real Scouse Dancer has just said, dumb question, but where's the program list for the halls? I'm looking on the Comic-Con website, can't see it everywhere. It's because it's not there yet. We have no official announcements yet. That all happened this week. It happens on the same day concurrent as the actual days of the convention. So we'll be hearing about the Thursday panels on the Thursday, Friday panels on the Friday, Saturday panels on the Saturday, whatever. Next week, we will be doing a massive panels show where we talk about the schedules as announced, and we'll also be bringing up our little gems, our hidden gems that we spot through the listings, and also the big headliners as well. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of to be announced, as Andy points out. Certainly when the people like Marvel and Fox and whoever else will show up, say, "Ah, yes, we're doing a panel. Who's coming?" To be announced. Yeah, it's really the television stuff where we're actually getting some full-blown details, which I think is very encouraging. Okay, is there anything else in terms of announcements this week that we would like to talk about, Alyssa?
We did get a big announcement from CCI this week, which I would love to get Rob's take on. The announcement that CCI was going to be staying in San Diego through 2021.
Yeah, well, we know that that's been in the works for a while, that those negotiations are always going on. If you saw the panel that I did with David Glanzer at San Diego Comic Fest in February, and we discussed that, and one of the issues is, like, everybody is saying, well, why don't they just make a permanent settlement about this? And the stumbling block, as you guys are probably familiar with, is the deals with the hotels. So Comic-Con absolutely requires that those hotels make those room blocks available, not for the studios, but for the attendees. So they got to get that hammered out, and the hotels can't commit indefinitely. They do it in 2 to 3 or 4 year intervals. So the only announcements that we're ever going to get out of San Diego and Comic-Con is we're good for another 3 or 4 years. There's never going to be we're here forever, because the hotel chains can't guarantee that.
Mm-hmm. So was part of this agreement was any sort of expansion of the convention center? I'm a little behind.
Yeah, I haven't seen what's up with that. I mean, I know that there are 2 offers on the table in terms of how they're going to expand the convention center. They need to if they want to get that done by 2020, they need to kind of get going on that. But I have not seen exactly what the story is on that yet. Mm-hmm. I know that for San Diego Comic-Con perspective, they want and need a contiguous convention center expansion. They need it on site. They don't want something 3 blocks away. So
right.
The fact that they came to an agreement on this indicates to me that maybe the city is looking in that direction now.
At one point, there was a lot of talk about the pop culture bubble bursting, and wondering. I'm going off of the script, Leonard. I am actually.
Keep going.
And I kind of was about this was pretty a buzzword 3 or 4 years ago, and it hasn't really burst. I am seeing some talk from there's a guy on Facebook called Comic-Con Tendrils. He does reviews from a vendor perspective about how good the C2E2 was versus some other cons. And he's kind of indicating that people aren't spending a lot of money, which in 2017. And I guess what I'm asking is, could that affect San Diego and CCI? And it seems like there's not a lot of offsites happening this year, for example.
Well, yeah, it's that part of it is curious to me, because I know that the Comic-Con International has a sort of complicated relationship with the offsites, that they need the spillover to soak up the extra people, but they want to make sure that their own exhibitors have first rights to the wallets of the attendees, because those exhibitors are paying top dollar to be in the convention center, and CCI wants to be able to say, you know, when those folks come in there, they're going to be walking out with boxes of your stuff. They're not going to be saving their money to spend across the street. So they really have to walk a fine line in terms of protecting the people that are investing in being at their show for that. As for the rest of the space, to me, there's a real, you know, I mean, I've been talking about this for a little while, and I don't think pop culture ever bursts as a bubble, but I think that the role of geek culture within pop culture is always on, you know, as good as the last movie, or as good as popular taste is on things like that. One of the things we're seeing in the movie world right now is the only franchises that are worth a damn are superheroes, and particularly Marvel, but DC has kind of righted the ship with Wonder Woman. People are I think, are going to approach, you know, Aquaman and Justice League with a more open mind now post Wonder Woman than they would have before. So that's good news. But then at the same time, you see, you know, Transformers, Mummy, the Pirates of the Caribbean, all of these things that were tentpoles are sort of exhausted, and that, you know, that those wells are not, you know, no water left in those. Right. I think there was a whole lot in the Universal plans in the first place. So if the superhero model isn't transferable to the rest of the entertainment industry, at a certain point, the entertainment industry is going to say, well, there's only two real viable sources of superhero IP, and they're both locked up. So we're going to move on, and we're going to try other stuff. Well, and that'll be an interesting moment, because Comic-Con has thrived on that for a long time.
They had a success with Arrival, but it's so hard to do this past year with the innovation of Arrival, the movie.
Yeah,
but you can't reproduce that. That's not a franchise.
Well, even when you get something that is a hit outside of the franchise framework, I mean, does anybody hold out a lot of hope for the Avatar sequels? I mean, they'll be interesting and everything, but is that
happening? They're actually happening?
Oh yeah.
Have they filmed anything? Because I feel like since I was like 16, all I keep hearing is that we're gonna make 6 of them, and then I'm 23. And I'm like, where are they? Where are they, James Cameron?
The last I heard is happening, but it's you know, we'll see. And it's probably,
I think, like, when they make that much investment at the Disneyland resorts, that's not something that they create those experiences in the resorts without having some content to come. And as far as I'm aware, 2 and 3 are in production. It's 4 and 5 that they're trying to work out the timings for, but 2 and 3 are currently being filmed. So it's already
pictures. I need pictures.
You are such a cynic, sir.
I've even seen the first one, but it's like, at this point, I'm like, if I don't see any pictures for 2 and 3, I'm like, they're not happening. You can put up a press release all you want, whoever's making those films, but I ain't believing it.
But I mean, I haven't seen Avatar in the announcements. I mean, maybe it was there and I missed it. I haven't seen anything with Alien. I mean, the latest Alien movie was, you know, disappointing commercially. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But I've heard sort of mixed things about it creatively. So even a tried and true franchise that is superhero adjacent, if not, you know, like strictly in the genre. So without those sorts of things, that makes it harder to support the structure of this beyond just the superheroes. So, you know, I mean, who knows what you know, I've been sort of warning about the the likelihood of this for a while now. So it's like, I think we're at a sustainable point with it, but and then the economics of the conventions themselves is a different story. Like there are some signs there that's kind of a tenuous moment.
Well, I was going to ask you if you had any updates on Wizard World, because we did a great show with you a few months ago on when Wizard World was in the headlines. And I saw that a settlement had been reached with one of the brothers. It seemed to me that the settlement was low, but that he seemed happy with it. I'm suspecting I didn't quite understand everything that was going on, and was wondering if there was any updates.
Yeah, it was a stupid situation. It shouldn't have come about in the first place. They paid him off. They made it go away. But the news with Wizard World is a couple of things. First of all, their quarterly financial results and their annual financial results from last year were disappointing. And they have announced that they're cutting back on a couple of shows. That just came this week. And then the former CEO of Wizard World, John Macaluso, just announced this week that he is starting his own convention company. So, you know, now with them, Fan Expo, Reed, Left Field, now this other company, I mean, that field is getting awfully crowded. So if he had a non-compete with them, that's expired. So that'll be kind of interesting, because whatever you can say about Wizard World prior to the current regime, they were making money. They did know what they were doing. The people who liked those shows liked them and kept going to them. And now that guy is going to start his own business. So we'll see what happens.
It just is kind of interesting what's happening in the rest of the country for all of the conventions. You know, how many conventions can Indianapolis support? You know, major conventions, or Seattle. I think you made that point in your the excellent FanFest panel. That I just wanted to do a shout out to Aaron Hall H for recording that and posting that on YouTube, so we could all see David Glanzer and you talking. Loved the comments about it. I was wondering, one other question was, so D23 is right before San Diego. And I'm sorry to harp on this, Leonard, because I know you want to talk movies in a little bit, but Star Wars...
I want to talk about Comic-Con.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm working on it. But Star Wars Last Jedi is not being shown at San Diego. So I've got to have a feeling that there's going to be something at D23. Do you
100%. Yeah.
I mean, do you have any ideas about, you know, what's going to happen between the two of them?
I mean, I know that Disney and Warner Brothers and Hasbro and all of the other big IP owners are looking at this stuff and saying, why is everybody else making money off of our properties at their conventions? We should be having our own conventions, making our own announcements, using them to make our own news. And from the perspective that they're looking at it, you know, you can understand why they're saying that. But, you know, looking at it from the outside, having a, you know, like a Switzerland, a neutral territory where they can all come to and all present their stuff and aggregate all of these, you know, media and fan eyeballs around the same event makes a lot more sense from every other perspective, other than the fact that we're a corporation, we own this IP, we need to own everything about it and not share it with anybody. That, so it's you know, it's like it's kind of a tragedy of the commons that's taking place here, that these guys are going to sort of move in and wall off their own content. They're going to save their best announcements for their own events. And frankly, their own events are not going to be as interesting in the grand scheme of things as one big event like Comic-Con or even New York or any of these other places where they can all compete with each other. You know, they're going to lose the buzz that comes from, you know, what's Fox going to say at this event? Well, we're not going to know at the Disney event because they're not part of it. So, you know, they're going to lose that scale in the interests of keeping the revenue stream for themselves. And that's kind of a business threat to the ecosystem, I think.
I think it's also Disney and Lucasfilm and Marvel are very canny about the way that they do their press. And I think you have seen in previous years that they very much don't like to get in the middle of everybody else's. They like to try and keep the spotlight nicely on themselves and own the news cycle as long as possible. And I'm thinking that perhaps there is a definite delineation and a separation of the companies. We've been told that Marvel are going to be coming to Hall H. We've been told they're going to be representing big at Comic-Con. So I'm suspecting that we're going to be getting the Marvel stuff at San Diego Comic-Con, with maybe a cast appearance and maybe a new poster at D23. And then you're going to have the Lucasfilm and the Star Wars stuff at D23. Constant repeat at the panel, at the booth at Lucasfilm at San Diego. I think there's definitely going to be a separation and a delineation of the two. And at the end of the day, with Star Wars at D23 the week before, they've got a whole week. A week of just owning the headlines on the news cycles, especially if they drop a trailer at D23.
No, I agree with that.
Is that, yeah.
I just
just jumped in there. I do apologize.
I do no, go right ahead. I do agree with you that it seems like it's short-sighted on Disney's part to be so protective about the Star Wars and only announce it at D23. Because when it comes right down to it, you're shaking your head.
I don't see it as protective. I think it's more of just a case of controlling the media. At the end of the day, if it'll be announced at D23, if it gets announced at San Diego, if they do it, if they time it right, and if they actually work the media right, they can own the whole week and a half.
And it'll still be what people are talking about at Comic-Con a week and a half later. It'll Bigfoot everybody else's announcements if it's big enough and cool enough. So yeah, I mean it's smart.
And the trailer on constant repeat on the screens. You got all the action happening towards the booth. Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Dickinson saying they may not want to go to D23 because of Solo. At D23, they can control the media, certainly in regards to the directorial transition that's happening in terms of that. It is a good observation. I can deal with that. I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Dickinson, but there's no social media output from D23. I think we'll be talking about it. I know there's no streamings from the panels and there's no phones allowed inside the halls, but the second those doors are open and someone gets a phone signal, you're going to be hearing about what's happening at D23.
But the reality is that there's only a couple of panels, couple of really big panels. There is the one panel that's happening Saturday morning, which is where we expect all of these announcements that everybody wants to go to. But there isn't going to be a Star Wars panel and a Marvel panel and a Defenders panel, and because different properties, obviously. But there isn't. They aren't doing the last Avatar. So I think that's what I'm not as thrilled with about D23 as I am about San Diego, is it doesn't have the depth that the San Diego does.
Well, let me ask you this: if you're a Star Wars fan, which one are you going to?
I went to Star Wars Celebration in Orlando.
Yeah, that throws the question into the mix. Yeah. It's got its own. It's got its own party.
Yeah, so I already saw some neat footage on it. But yes, I mean I would like to see that panel, but I'm just not sure if it's big enough, or if it's enough for me to spend the $1,000 on a hotel, the couple $100 on a ticket, the extra time off from work. All of that said, and yes, I've got reservations and I've got tickets already. So yeah. So,
if I could add something to what you were saying, you said a key word there about D23 depth, which I've been asking this with some of my fellow reporter friends and so on, because I mean I've never been interested in D23 in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been heavily in the presence zone. Like I've never been interested, because I'm like look, I love movies, but I also love television. I feel like if you're gonna have something like Marvel and Star Wars, they're like, why don't bring, like, I mean, Star Wars Rebel is gonna end this season. Why don't bring, for example, I'm still shocked that, Inhuman, for example, they're getting this kind of a movie marketing. We're showing the first 2 episodes in IMAX theaters on September 1st for 2 weeks, but yet they're not going to D23. So that's the thing. If you had asked me like what I would have chosen, Comic-Con or D23 for Star Wars, I'd probably say San Diego, because for one, I will be able to see everything that I want to see anyway outside of D23. I mean, they're probably going to drop something outside of D23 after those panels. At the same time, I feel I can get a full scope of, both of all the whole pop culture genre with television and movies. So I think in many ways, like, as much as Star Wars likes to control their stuff and have it most at D23, I think it's a loss at their part, because I feel like it would feel more well-rounded at Comic-Con. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the miscalculation that I think they're making, is that I think most fans see it that way. It's like at Comic-Con, you get something of everything. It's like a buffet of all the different stuff. And if you go to D23, you go to some of these other purpose-built walled garden events that are created by the brands themselves, you're just getting like the one dish. And no matter how many courses they're going to serve on that one dish, it's not going to be the same as going to a place where you can get all of the other stuff that's on offer at Comic-Con. And that, they're different models. So,
or if they, D23 seems like it's geared for animation, the animations, the Mulans and that, and it's geared towards the superheroes, and it's geared towards Star Wars, and they're separate. Those are 3 separate audiences, or at least 2 separate audiences. The all of the Disney princess and Mickey Mouse stuff, and forgive me for the generalization because I don't watch those types of movies anymore. They don't belong with the superhero genres, in my opinion.
Well,
so anyway, that's a D23.
Okay, before we kind of cover some more of certainly the Comic-Con announcements of the week, and one more question I wanted to put to Rob is if you can bring us an update, please, of San Diego Comic-Con versus Salt Lake Comic-Con, which has proven to be an interesting story, which has hit the headlines this week, and certainly the way that both sides have approached the legal case, and now that it's going towards a judge. You can give us an update of that story, please.
Sure. So I just wrote a big story about this on Forbes on Friday that sort of went through all of it. I assume that your listeners and viewers are familiar with the general issues. Essentially, San Diego Comic-Con is suing Salt Lake City for trademark infringement for using the term Comic-Con. Salt Lake City's defense of this is Comic-Con is generic. The term existed before San Diego trademarked it. Their trademark claim is invalid for certain technical reasons that they're looking into, and that there is an issue of, even if they own it, they were licensing it improperly, and because they licensed it improperly, that puts it in the public domain. That's the nature of Salt Lake City's claim to this. So there was a court-ordered settlement last week, settlement conference in San Diego last week, where depositions were taken. So there was some motion that happened on the legal front. This has been going on since 2014, after Salt Lake City sent a car wrapped in Salt Lake City Comic-Con branding to San Diego, where it was mistaken in a couple of cases for being branded with San Diego Comic-Con. And that really hit the hot buttons for San Diego Comic-Con on a number of fronts. So I think that's what precipitated this particular legal action. Anyway, they went to this settlement conference. They were not able to settle. Both sides are moving for summary judgment, which means they want the court to just look at the facts of the case and say the other side has no case here, go away. So they both filed papers for this, and the papers are public if you know where to look for them. Salt Lake City took the extraordinary step of not only posting their motions online, but actually putting out a promoted post on Facebook to make sure that everybody that's interested in Comic-Cons gets to see all of this ugly laundry being done.
They've really put it out into the open, haven't they? They've really pushed it front and center. And I did quite like the wording that you used in the Forbes piece about it being a David and Goliath. So like,
yeah, they really want to make it look like Big Bad Comic-Con is coming after us, the little guy, and they singled us out. And there's like dozens of other shows that call themselves Comic-Con, and why are they coming after little old us and everything? And you know, at a certain level, I think there's a gut level revulsion that people feel that a big company is able to trademark a term in common use like Comic-Con, and you're thinking, how do they get away with that? Like, they didn't coin that term. The term Comic-Con was in existence before San Diego, even 45 years ago. So, you know, where do they get off doing that stuff? And I think that's a common sense reaction that a lot of people have. The bottom line is that the legal issues are a lot more complicated than that. There is reason to believe that San Diego Comic-Con has a valid trademark claim on this. But the most inflammatory thing is if you went and you downloaded those papers, they're no longer available at the site, but one of their filings suggested that an officer of Comic-Con and under advice of counsel perpetrated fraud on the patent office by how they applied for that trademark in the first place, and then perjured themselves in the deposition when they were explaining what happened. Those are allegations of criminal misconduct. Fraud and perjury are not civil things. Those are criminal complaints. And they named people by name in this thing that they made public on their site that's no longer there. So that's a real escalation in the hostility between that. Comic-Con's response to they didn't deal with that particular issue. I can't imagine that they're terribly happy with it. As you guys know, getting Comic-Con to talk about even stuff that they like talking about can sometimes be a struggle. This is something that they don't like talking about, so they have no public comment on any of this. But I did get a look at their filing, which is also public, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not, you know, this is what we have courts for, is to settle this stuff. Let's just say that there's two sides to this story, and the Comic-Con side of it is amply documented and aggressively argued. So this thing is going to trial. The judge is going to rule on these summary motions. I would be very surprised if either of these sides prevails on the summary judgment, because there are issues at stake here, and it does need to get adjudicated on the actual issues. But once the trial happens, that's going to be quite interesting, because you know, we don't hear that much from the Comic-Con side, but they are loaded. If you read my article on Forbes, I quote from their filings, which I don't think is.
I'm actually really curious, because the way that the Salt Lake press release, or the piece that was put on Facebook, made it sound like, and I think a lot of people seem to think that San Diego Comic-Con have this army. Yes, they will have a very nicely represented legal office that they refer to, but it almost feels kind of like Hollywood in the way that it's represented by Salt Lake. And the actual wording seems a lot more inflammatory than the actual case does. I mean, which is why I'm really surprised about the criminal proceedings that may come about. As I didn't know about that element.
I think that I read that document and my jaw was on the floor. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but reading that, I was saying, my God, did an actual lawyer write this? Because it was really, and hopefully it goes away. And it's like, I don't want to make too much of it, but they did put it on their website, and they did a promoted post, and they encouraged people to go and look at this stuff. So it did get out. And then, you know, a lot of the news reports subsequently didn't cover that, which I think is good. But I just wanted to note that this is a tactic that they're using, and it's, you know, the Comic-Con's point, and the point that I tried to make in my article, because there's a lot of media coverage of this, and all of media that I can tell is getting their information from Salt Lake City, from the documents that they're making public. So consequently, the media coverage is reflecting that angle on what's going on. As a journalist, that kind of offended me. I thought there are two sides here, and we need to look at it. And, you know, I mean, honestly, when you think about the term Comic-Con, what it means today, I mean, prior to San Diego, if you said Comic-Con, it was a room full of guys selling old comics out of white boxes in a hotel basement somewhere. Like, that's what Comic-Con was.
Yeah.
No marketing person would call their event a Comic-Con in the hopes of getting non-fanatics to come to this. Now, if you use the term Comic-Con, it automatically suggests celebrities and costumes and giant crowds and fun events and all of that. And the reason for that is what San Diego and Comic-Con International have done with their event. And so
well, that's
for them to say
to come
these guys are capitalizing on our trademark to make their own money, and they're not licensing it, they're not giving us any opportunity to say, to explain what their event, govern what the term Comic-Con should actually refer to. That's an interesting claim, and we'll see if it's a legal claim.
But it's something that I wanted to come back to in terms of, to bring it full circle, with the announcement that we had from the Mayor's office and from CCI this week, in that long-term investment into, well, a couple more years investment in San Diego through to 2021. What sort of damage could this court case do to the brand of San Diego Comic-Con? And I can imagine that the Mayor's office is going to be paying very close attention to this legal battle. Yeah,
I don't think that it's really going. I mean, it's kind of an inside baseball story. I think that the results of the case are that either Salt Lake City prevails, in which case they can continue to call themselves Comic-Con, and then the term Comic-Con becomes open for use elsewhere, which would be kind of bad. But I mean, Comic-Con with a hyphen, I mean, the Comic-Con brand is so well established that I don't think in the long run.
Is it Teflon at this point?
It is Teflon at this point, because I don't think anybody cares about this particular stuff. Or San Diego prevails, in which case the term Comic-Con is well established as a licensed thing, and that other organizations that call their events Comic-Con need to do business with Comic-Con International to be able to do that. I mean, I don't think either way it affects San Diego.
Fair enough. I'm just curious because a lot of people have a lot of goodwill towards San Diego Comic-Con, but I've been reading a lot online where water, if you know what I mean. They're starting to feel a lot of antagonism on both sides, or certainly on Salt Lake
City has been using that argument a lot, and if you go to their site, there's a huge thread of comments that's all very negative against Comic-Con International on that stuff. And Comic-Con has been keeping quiet about it, and the courts take a dim view of litigants arguing this stuff in public in that way. So we'll see if that affects the outcome of the case. But yeah, I mean, that's their defense strategy, is kind of stampeding fan opinion on this subject, and it's not it's unsavory. It's just not good for the community.
It seems.
It's also
that. Sorry, it seems also that Salt Lake City's that their argument plays into the confusion that a lot of fans, a lot of people who go to conventions have. They don't understand the distinction between a CCI show and a ReedPop show or a Wizard World show it blurs that.
Well, how many of us, when we tell our friends, oh, we're going to Comic-Con in San Diego, like 10 years ago, everybody would have known exactly what that was. Now people say, oh, we just had a Comic-Con in Columbus, or in Seattle, or in Albuquerque, or wherever. And they think that it's like a road show of the same, it's like when Broadway shows go out on the road, and, it's like they'll bring the same cast and it's all organized by the same people, and it's not. And the reputational thing is, if a Comic-Con locally sucks and people are pissed off and they post all this stuff online about how bad it was, then people think, oh, how did San Diego Comic-Con screw up and do this bad con in Houston? And so they get the reputational hit because people are calling themselves the same thing as they are. So I think they have a grounds for defending their trademark.
I think it was very interesting in terms of the timetable of hearing about the court case, and also the announcement from the Mayor's office. What's the timetable in terms of this legal event? Because it was all supposed to be happening at the beginning of the week, just gone. What's the timetable now of the actual case going in front of a judge?
My understanding is that the judge is going to rule on the summary motion sometime in September, and if if it's not dismissed, then it'll be in trial later in the fall. And I think that the timing of the mayor's announcement, it was just coincidental. I mean, as I was working on this story, this stuff was coming out about the settlement you know, again, Comic-Con really didn't want to talk about this, especially with their event coming up. But I did feel like it was not okay for one side to be the only side in this argument. So so I wanted to get my story out there, so at least people could see the issue in the fullness of it.
I posted a link to your article in the live chat, and we'll try and make sure that gets out so people can understand the issues and what's happening.
Thank you. And if I could just take a second and circle back, because we were talking about the programming stuff, if I could take a moment to blow my own horn a little bit, because I'm doing some programming at Comic-Con, and I would love to let your audience know a little bit about that. Do we have a second?
Go for it.
So the one that I really want to mention is on Friday afternoon, this is the second year in a row, I'm doing Pop Culture Shark Tank, which is, if you watch the Shark Tank show, where basically startups with business ideas get to pitch to our panel of sharks. So our panel this year is David Steinberger, who's of course the founder of Comixology, Ted Adams, founder of IDW, and Susie Ryu, who is the VP of Technology Investment for Atom Factory Venture Capital in LA that specializes in entertainment and pop culture properties. So we've got A-list people on the judges' podium, and I'm inviting anybody that has a business plan, like an idea for a startup company in this space that has a well-developed plan that wants to, you know, do a 90-second pitch, tell our panel what you're up to, who your audience is. Last year, we had 4 amazing people that presented ideas. Our winner was a nonprofit actually out of Atlanta that had raised close to $100,000 for putting video game consoles in children's hospitals. And the founder of this company is 16 years old. Amazing young man. And so I know that there's a couple of companies that are ready to pitch. Anyway, it's going to be a really exciting hour. That's going to be a lot of fun. I have
what time on Friday?
A bunch of other random, really everything from underground comics on Thursday. I'm doing something on how to get press attention on Thursday morning. Retailer panel on Thursday afternoon. Shark Tank on Friday. Entrepreneurs panel with some really interesting people, including Dinesh Shamdasani from Valiant and some of the other folks that I talked about on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I am doing the spotlight panel for Comic-Con guest of honor, Sarah Glidden, who did the sensational graphic novel Rolling Blackouts, which is about her travels in Syria and Turkey and Iraq a couple of years ago, and the book about comics journalism that she made for that from Drawn and Quarterly, and that should be really fun. I had her as a guest at the class I teach at University of Washington, and she's a brilliant, talented cartoonist and somebody with a lot to say about journalism and current events also.
That sounds wonderful.
Cool. Sounds like you're gonna have a busy weekend.
Yeah. You'll certainly find me at the bar afterwards, because I'm gonna need a drink after each one of those days, I think.
Reminder of the times for those.
So I think Comic-Con would prefer that I not reveal exact times and schedules until their programming comes out, but Thursday morning for press attention, followed by Underground Comics Thursday afternoon for Retailer, the big one Friday afternoon, I dare say sometime around 3 o'clock for Pop Culture Shark Tank. Entrepreneurs panel is Saturday, bumming me out because it means I probably won't be able to get to see The Flash. And then Sunday afternoon, when your feet are killing you and you need just to go and chill out and listen to a good conversation, Sunday afternoon, a couple of hours before the show closes for Sarah Glidden. Anybody that's in town on Tuesday, I'm also doing some event at the Public Library on Comics and the Law with a really cool panel of people talking about legal issues, probably including this trademark nonsense, as well as a bunch of other stuff around intellectual property rights and other things related to comics.
What time on Tuesday? Tuesday
at, I think it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to tweet it out. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you can retweet it and I'll post that. It's a really interesting, it happens the Law Society of San Diego has done it every year. I'm filling in for my pal Batten Lash.
It needs to be at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because by 4 o'clock, all of us are starting to do meetups and parties. and at the bar.
All right. On Tuesday?
So, yeah, on Tuesday.
Well, you guys don't waste any time, do you?
Oh,
No,
we don't
no,
mess
we
about.
don't.
We don't mess around. Okay, excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed for those updates, Rob. Of course, stick around if there's anything you want to chime in with the other announcements we've got. I want to go back to Andy now, because we kind of did skip over something that didn't get, well, was a noticeable absence when it came to the announcements. With the small screen stuff coming to Marvel, there is one property which isn't going to be coming this year. Andy, if you'd like to talk to us about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., please.
Yeah, so for the first time in 5 years since they debuted at San Diego Comic-Con, S.H.I.E.L.D. will not be going to the Comic-Con. Now, if anyone who's wondering, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been renewed for 5th season, so it's not that, it's because they're being canceled or anything like that. But yeah, Jeffrey Cola, who is the transmedia producer of Marvel Television, he put up a tweet confirming that they will not be attending Comic-Con this year, but they will be at New York Comic-Con this October for anyone, to comfort people some. And then Clark Gregg, who plays Phil Coulson, put up some funny, a charming half statement, and then he went into that for we're very sorry we can't go, but we're gonna be at New York Comic-Con, so it's. In some ways I understand why, but in some ways I don't understand, because okay, on one hand the show doesn't come until 2018, but at the same time Black Lightning and Krypton are not coming until 2018 on look at DC, so I'm like, why couldn't S.H.I.E.L.D. go? And and I will say in the last few years for S.H.I.E.L.D., because they always start filming after Comic-Con for their new season, they usually don't have much to show. They bring the blooper reel, and then some other film video presentation, and then they announce, oh, Ghost Rider's coming to S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that. So maybe they just feel like this year, since we can't really share much because their finale ended on a huge cliffhanger, so maybe they just felt like maybe we don't really have anything to show this time. So. But it's still very sad because S.H.I.E.L.D. I was there for the first I was in the second row in the middle. I started chanting. When Clark Gregg walked out, I started chanting Coulson. Everyone started chanting Coulson, and then we saw the pilot. It was one of the best times of my Comic-Con history. So it's sad that they're not going. But hopefully they will have some cool stuff in New York Comic-Con that people will get to enjoy. But it's still weird because they're bringing almost everything but S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as there's no Cloak and Dagger, there's no Runaways. So I was mixed about them all.
There's some noticeable absences, isn't there?
Yeah, maybe they will announce Runaways and Cloak and Dagger later, but I don't know. Has Hulu really had a big presence at Comic-Con as well as Freeform in the past few years? I haven't really noticed that. Since when I do press rooms, I never really see any Hulu Freeform shows doing any press there. So
there is hope that we'll see something for The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
That's a lot of people have their fingers crossed on that, but as of yet, no word on it from what I've heard. I haven't seen a lot from Hulu either. So I know I believe Amazon did a series of press rooms at New York Con last year. So, and hopefully Netflix will do some. That would be nice.
Fair enough.
That would be
excellent
fun.
stuff. Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for giving us that little bit of an update on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like I say, it does seem to be something they're holding off for, certainly New York Comic-Con down the pipe. Okay, what we are going to be doing now is the CCI announcements that came out this week, of which there were loads. But afterwards, we're also going to be going into exclusives. We're not going to go into all of them, because if you did go through the Comic-Con announcement, it was pages long. There was loads to announce when it comes to the exclusives, certainly more than I was expecting. But what we are going to do, I think Rob's vanished now at this point, so bye Rob, take care. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to put to our Q&A now. We'd like you to pick your favorite exclusive that has been announced so far. Okay, have a think. Put it into the Q&A, your favorite exclusive, and we'll see if we can showcase. And I'm going to hope that Andy and Alyssa are going to pick one as well, and we're going to talk about exclusives in a second. But first things first, let's go also through the Comic-Con announcements. Plenty of Toucan stuff that got announced, and it was mostly also stuff that they were going to talk about anyway, but a big headline. Each announcement that came out, there was a big headline. So, for example, we had ourselves our announcement of number 9, which I believe took place on Friday, which was regarding the change to the badge and registration pickup, which is going to be taking place in Sales Pavilion this year on the upper level of the San Diego Convention Center. Pretty much they're moving everything from the ground floor upstairs. Admittedly, this is kind of expected, seeing as that a lot of people are not needing to collect their badges anymore. At the end of the day, they're all getting mailed out certainly to North America. But certainly for people who are international, the industry exhibitors and professionals and press will all be collecting their badges, their bags, their books and lanyard upstairs in the Sale Pavilion. But there were also some interesting things in terms of the way some things were moved, including the art show that is moving to the Grand Ballroom C in the Manchester Grand Hyatt. Which I find interesting because the art show is, for me, a big element to San Diego Comic-Con. It's somewhere where a lot of incredible creative talent is showcased. And when it was in the Sales Pavilion, it was, admittedly, a lot of people went, ah, it's there, it's over there, we know where it is. But it was something that you knew had a presence in Comic-Con because it was visible every single time that you walked through Sales Pavilion. Here, the Manchester Grand Hyatt, at the end of the day, is quite a distance away from the convention center. And I do feel that perhaps it is being not so much marginalized, but certainly moved out of the way and kind of pushed into a corner, which I feel is a bit of a disappointment for myself. Then you also have stuff like the blood drive, which is also moving to the Manchester Grand Hyatt, but I believe that was that was kind of on the cards. That would we understand that was pretty that was on the way. The International Film Festival is in the Marriott Grand Ballroom, but a lot of these things were in the Marriott anyway, but they're now getting moved into some of the new buildings and some of the new rooms that are there. So the Marriott Grand Ballroom 3 and 4 is holding the International Film Festival. The Games is now moving from to Pacific Ballroom 21 and 22 in the Marriott. Which I think is interesting. Although the Convention Center games apparently are still getting placed in the mezzanine level, but apparently that is getting smaller this year. They are moving other content into those rooms. The hospitality suites in the Grand Ballroom of 5 and 6. The playback room is going to the Marriott Marina Ballroom D and E, which means, again, you have to go a little bit of a distance to watch that. The volunteer registration is moving to Marina Ballroom FG out of the convention center, which means you have to go again a little bit of a further distance to actually do your volunteer registration. They do seem to be concentrating a lot of new content in the convention center itself and moving it all this other stuff a little bit out of the way.
I think the volunteer reg was in the Marriott MMM last year.
Okay.
So that's not so much a move, I don't think.
Okay.
I think it was in the Marine Ballroom, if I recall correctly. But still, moving the art show to the Hyatt is, in my opinion, huge, and not necessarily in a good way. So they're moving all of the registration, press badges, and all of that upstairs. What are they going to put downstairs? Any ideas?
Not a clue. But the thing is, we also do know that the convention center is still doing ongoing work on the building, including the elevators, which is the escalators, which is where those badge pickups, certainly for industry and press, all took up space. So it's very much a case of they're kind of moving it out of the way. The international badge pickup did take place in the new Marriott extension, which was really nice, actually. It was a really cool way to collect your badge and to be introduced to this new building. But it's all getting now moved upstairs to sales. So it's all lining up in front of the convention center with everybody else for us international attendees. But that was the announcement on Friday. Saturday, we had ourselves the special programs at the San Diego Central Library, which includes the Talking Comics with America's Educators, the Comic Conference for Educators and Librarians. Plenty of stuff happening at the Central Library, actually. They've already kind of got the vast majority of their content up. If you head to Talkin, there's a couple in there which really did jump out at me. On the Thursday, the graphic novel and manga programming for teens and tweens in our diverse communities for any budget. That's going to be an interesting panel, if anything, because of it talks about the future of comics and programming, and the way that comics are slowly but surely developing in terms of diversity, and manga being introduced and embraced. Also, the pros to panels panel jumped out at me, which was on the Friday at 3 o'clock. The graphic novels in the high school library. As anyone who knows and has watched this show on a regular basis know, I'm a firm advocate for comics and graphic novels in any library. I think they should have a separate section, and they just really should be more embraced. So no, that should be an interesting panel. And yeah, lots of stuff being programmed in the San Diego Central Library. If you do find yourself stuck for something to kind of take on board, I really would recommend having a look through that programming. And then we had, and I believe was this yesterday, this is the convention policies panel, post regarding the nuts and bolts of what CCI are doing in terms of running the show. One of the things that did jump out, of course, was the comics props policy, which has been a lot of people's front and center in terms of what they've been talking about in terms of Comic-Con, and also other conventions as well. So this kind of related to what CCI have responded to in terms of comic props. Once again, no functional props or weapons allowed in Comic-Con. That's not exactly new, but they are introducing a second props desk, which has been added near the outside door in the lobby of Hall C2. So you've got two now. You've got a lobby of Hall E and Hall C2. So you've got two ways to go in when it comes to your costumes. It certainly will be a little bit more of a congestion, because at the end of the day, I suspect CCI are going to be taking on board all of the concerns about fake weapons in terms of conventions and Comic-Con. Very curious to see how it's going to go in terms of the business with the functional real arrows having the tips removed, but that's not exactly new. It's just the fact that they are spending, I think, more time investigating costumes. It's not just going to be okay, you're okay, move on. You're okay, move on. Mm-hmm. They are opening two desks to make sure that they are really going to spend some time on this. I don't know if there's been any chatter on the forum about that.
A little bit, but I have to say that I'm glad that they are going to, instead of outright banning everything, that they are going to take the time and look at the individual props. I am cosplaying. If I get brave, I will be cosplaying, and my character does involve a pistol and not a blaster type.
I want to see you dress as Tomb Raider. I'm sorry, but if that's what it's going to be, I
want to see her as a female Punisher.
That one might be interesting. I would like that, Andy.
And my job here is done. Thank you very much, everyone. I will see you next week.
Same time next week. Absolutely.
Same back
no, definitely something that's rather covered up and female warrior type. That's definitely in my frame. However, I'm glad that they're taking the time to look at it, because prop weapons in cosplay are such an integral part of the costuming, and it would be a shame not to be able to have those. And if you've ever played with a prop weapon, you can't even pull the trigger. I mean, these are 3D printed, so I mean it's. There are no moving parts in these. So I have no other comments on that.
Fair enough.
Back to
okay. Right, cool. Well, let's move quickly on to the exclusives then. This was announced on Monday. And my word, did they drop one hell of a list. It was all the booths and all the items, the item counts for the various bits and pieces which you can pick up as exclusives. Admittedly, a large amount of them are going to be available outside the convention past San Diego Comic-Con, but it's a case of getting your exclusive in first and making damn sure that you've got hold of it. Certainly some items jumped out at me, which I was particularly happy to see. Hero Within, it's good to see that they're getting their first exclusive this year, as they're getting they're doing a Wonder Woman t-shirt which you can buy, which I can imagine with the rest of the Hero Within stuff, the Tony Kim produced items, it's going to be incredibly high quality. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to look like. That's going to be available at booth 1019, and yeah, they've only released, it's just the t-shirt for now, but no, that looks like fun. Let's go through a couple of the suggestions that have come through on the Q&A. We've got ourselves Ian O'Hara saying the Star Wars backpack, which jumped out. Yeah, that as far as I'm aware, I'm not too sure if that's actually been announced where that's going to get sold. But no, that's there was a release of all this. StarWars.com did a post on all the exclusives that are going to be available. And yeah, the Star Wars backpack jumped out. It depends which one you're thinking of, though, the Rebel or the Imperial one, because I know that a friend of mine is quite tempted by the Rebel one. So there we go. Karen's session, all the Harry Potters from Funko. Yes, there was some very nice figures, and I think a lot of people are still looking at the Okami from Fantastic Beasts. That is still incredibly popular when it comes to the Funkos. Michael Leventhal, 3A, but they are sold out and announced previously. Okay. Kitty Gunn, the Alex Ross Frankenstein monster. Yeah, we showed you this a picture of this last week. Yeah, very, very nice indeed. Although it's not actually listing on the Alex Ross exclusives on CCI. That is only showing on Alex Ross's Twitter as being available. It's the two, there's the Dracula one and the Frankenstein's monster. Not showing on Alex Ross's listings on CCI. Mostly for Alex Ross, there's the sketchbook hardcover. There's a whole bunch of lithographs, mostly DC and Marvel. Very, very pretty indeed. But no, the Universal Monsters stuff is not on that listing. Angela Copley is saying that the Gravity Falls minifigures from UCC Distributing has jumped out. And yeah, I think myself and Alyssa both quite like the suggestion from Cedric Carmichael, which is the 2001 Space Odyssey pin, which you can get from Mobius Models, which is quite nice. Yeah, very, very pretty.
I've got a couple of others too. I'm not quite sure though. There's a Star Wars 40th anniversary limited edition denim patch backpack from Loungefly, which looks quite nice. It's at booth 2013. Looks like something that you could wear every day. You know, use every day as just a really comfortable backpack. The other one that I, being a Trek fan, that I really am thinking I'm going to do is there's a Star Trek TNG 30th anniversary mirror pin, and it's free with a $50 purchase at ThinkGeek. It looks like it's going to be about this tall with a sword and shield and Star Trek Mirror Universe on it. That one looks to be really good, interesting too. And if there's other things at ThinkGeek, and they usually do a patch. If you, the last time I was at ThinkGeek, they had a special patch that if you wore your special bag, the bag of holding, yeah, that they've got the Velcro on the outside. If you had that and you brought it to the booth, they would give you a special patch for it. So you may that may work out this time too. It's at $33.49. Also, just if you want to take a look at some interesting art, Bill Salkowitz. Leonard, you're going to have to help me with how to spell that.
Which one, sorry?
Sienkiewicz.
Bill Sinkovich.
Sinkovich. Thank you very much.
Sinkovich.
See, this is why I keep you around.
It's true. She's not lying.
He's got a couple of exclusives of prints that he's done. I happen to really enjoy his artwork. He's got a New Mutants limited S&N portfolio of 11 by 17 prints. It is kind of pricey, but certainly worth a look. I love his artwork. It's just
it's $100. It's not cheap, but then again, it's Bill Sinkovich, and the man can. It's very much like Alex Ross. The man knows the value of his stuff, and he puts appropriate prices on his work.
Small story.
Yeah,
small story. When I was first starting to buy original artwork, I was looking at an advert that he had done for Moon Knight. And I was thinking, oh, I'll go up to $800 for that piece because it was gorgeous, just drop dead gorgeous. It ended up retailing for somewhere like $4,000. So, yeah. Yep. Moving on. Back to you, Larry.
Moving on. Okay, let's go through a couple of the others that have come through, because people have actually just informed me now of something that I didn't know about. So this is news. First things first, let's go through a couple of the other exclusives people are jumping out with. Sarita P is talking about the Funko's Dorb Skeletor and Panther Flocked. I quite liked that. I thought that was rather cute. Admittedly, Caroline also pointed and screamed at the screen and go, oh, that's cute, like that. Scott is talking about the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja set, the Thorn from Hasbro, and the Sideshow collectible prints as well, mainly the Ray print done by Adam Hughes, which he's pre-ordered already. Andrew English is pointed out the Bottle City of Candor. I actually had to quickly research who that was by again. It is indeed by Tweeterhead, who I've never actually even heard of. But this is an item which is based on the, it's 1/2 inches tall, 12-piece statue of the Bottle City, and it's in a glass dome, it's in a presentation box, and you're going to, later on in the year, get the chance to get the plinth for it to go on. Because, of course, it's, instead of getting it all in one go, you're going to get double hit and go for that. But no, it's $44.95. And that's a rather cute piece of kit there. Other ones. Yeah, this is the news that someone's reminding me about. Funko have purchased Loungefly, which I did not know. Yeah, this is off the back of 2 items that they're bringing out. A limited edition denim patch backpack for $80.
Yeah. That I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's 400 limited edition.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the 400 limited edition of the Stranger Things limited edition pack as well, $45. Both bags available at the Loungefly booth, 5346, directly across from Funko this year. So there we go. Right.
Interestingly enough, Monster Brand, which does some really high-end Star Wars jackets. I actually I purchased a jacket, and I believe Mike Leventhal also purchased a jacket last at Star Wars Celebration. They have some affiliation with Loungefly too. They were sister companies from what I'm remembering. So perhaps Monster Brand is also owned by Funko. But very interesting that Funko is branching out into soft goods.
Cool.
Away from toys.
Right. What else did I want to quickly talk about? Sorry, it's just that there's been so much that's been announced this week. It's just it's almost been difficult to keep up. One of the other announcements that came from CCI is the brand new Game Creator Connection. Now they've been doing for some time the comics Creator Connection, putting together collaborators in terms of writers and artists to bring new content to the world. Now, for 2017, they're introducing the Game Creator Connection, an opportunity for games developers, whether working in the industry or aspiring to do so, to receive valuable advice and insights and mentoring. This is going to be taking place between 1 and 3 on Saturday of Comic-Con at the Santa Rosa Room, the Marriott Marquis in Marina. Quite frankly, I think this is, number one, a cracking idea, and number two, that's too short a time. I think, in much the same way that the Comics Creator Connection, I think that's a day's worth. It's something that you actually should just, you shouldn't just cram into 2 hours. I think that's an insane short amount of time to get people involved. You've got game pitch reviews, you've got yeah, it's basically something that you can apply to take part in by emailing programs@comic-con.org, including your first and last name, your email address, your field of interest, whether you're a student or whether you're working currently in the game industry in any capacity. If it's something that you're interested in, I would certainly check it out, because let's just talk about how much money games are earning in terms of revenue. It's just a major source of creativity. One
area that hasn't been brought up in any capacity is Repop was doing an interesting thing at their conventions where they do something for the bloggers. They even had a blogger stage and a blogger area. You know, for people who produce shows for comics and theater and you know that are all geek related. I'm not seeing anything like that at San Diego. It's kind of interesting that they're not doing something like that.
Yeah.
So just as a passing thought.
Okay. What exclusives have jumped out at you, Andy?
Well, my top three, I'm gonna go through them quickly. And number 3 is the Wonder Twins and Gleek free set, because I even though I'm not a huge Wonder Twin, I'm not a huge fan of the Wonder Twins. I become interested in them since Smallville, so I thought I was interested. They're getting out of the blue. They're getting their own Funko set. Number 2 is the Alex Ross sketchbook, because I love Alex Ross. I'm probably gonna pick that one up. And
no, but which version are you gonna get? Because there's 2. There's the normal hardcover version, and then there's an Uncle Sam version as well. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I saw that. I will go with the normal one, as that's fine for me. And at number 1, because I do the Flash Pike, I definitely want to get the Star Labs Flash badge set.
Yeah, I kind of thought that one would jump out at you.
Oh no, I've been jumping up on them since I heard about it. I'm like, I'm like, you know, like I think that's something I need to like on Thursday, because Thursdays are usually like my lightest days on a Comic-Con, except for Sundays. But like, I might try to head over and, you know, get a set or 2.
Fair enough. For all of the exclusives, of course, you can head to CCI. It's on, comic-con.org. It's on their homepage at the moment. It's not actually got a page within Comic-Con. In the Talkin blog as yet, which I found a bit weird. It's a separate post all on its own, so it's probably best to actually get it through the homepage if you want to check out all the exclusives. Or of course, you can go to the utility belt of an Englishman in San Diego.com. Yes, I am working through them. There are still some bits I haven't got on there yet. Bear with me. Hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll actually have that fully completed. But no, all of them will be listed as available on the utility belt of the website. And last but not least, I think I want to cover this. I wanted to cover this earlier, but it's probably a good time to talk about it now. Andrew Dickinson's mentioned this as well. The deal that's been put forward that Twitter has signed, that they're going to be doing exclusive live streaming from San Diego Comic-Con. They're doing a number of IPs, actually. Wimbledon's one of them. I think there's a couple of major sports, tennis games, or football and baseball. They're doing all of that, but they are also doing live streaming on Twitter from Comic-Con. Now, this is actually going to be part of the IGN coverage. You're looking, I believe, at 16 hours worth of coverage over the course of the weekend. Now, Andrew Dickinson has pointed out that as part of the announcement, it's saying that it's going to be streaming from Petco and also from the new Children's Museum. Interesting point. I do quite like the fact that Andrew is absolutely clinging to the fact that there's going to be some Nerd HQ content coming from the new Children's Museum, possibly. Although I think even he noticed also that when I turned around and said, dude, you may just have to let Nerd HQ go. Okay? At the end of the day, Zach is doing the thing with sci-fi. You just have to take a deep breath and let it go. At which point that tweet was liked by Nerd HQ. Now I don't know. Now you can't tell what they're thinking. So we don't know what's going to be announced from Children's Museum. As far as I was aware, the Children's Museum is still blocked off as a spare space in their calendar. So we don't know what's actually going to be coming from there. It could be an IGN home base, perhaps. We have yet to find out. In terms of the content from Petco, I can imagine that's just going to be kind of like roving report stuff in terms of them going to Carnival and doing kind of roving reports from there. I think that's still comes under the remit of what they were saying in their announcement. But the new Children's Museum, at the end of the day, who knows? Andrew Dickinson, no, IGN is Hard Rock. Okay, in that case, anything can happen. It's all up in the air. Who knows? But yeah, we'll find out sooner rather than later. We will find out. Okay, I do want to start wrapping things up. I didn't want this to get to a 2-hour show, so let's wrap things up. Is there anything that you think that we can talk about, Alyssa?
Just Week in TV.
I knew you were going to say that.
Absolutely. It's a very short one. There is hardly anything new happening this week. It's all about 4th of July and fireworks and parades and all of that sort of stuff. So that's where all the special event programming is happening. We did put together a few kind of eclectic shows that people may want to binge. Babylon 5, if you haven't ever watched this was a 1990s TV show. Really, the first episodic, first long form television that took a long time to develop, based on a site on a space station that's streaming free. Leonard's favorite, Black Mirror, is also on Netflix. You can just watch 1 or 2 episodes of that. You don't have to invest in a whole 5-season series like Babylon 5. Santa Clarita's Diet, just as being, we're going for half-an-hour sitcoms of comedy in Drew Barrymore in LA. That's another fun one. Person of Interest, if you want to get into, episodic shows of whodunit. And another one for the family is Troll Hunters. And so just some ideas of if you get stuck and you're with family, or, you want to binge something, there's some ideas. You can find the link on my blog.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, Week in TV. Thank you very much indeed. Right. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. I knew this was going to be a long show. We had a lot to cover, a lot to talk about, and hopefully we've squeezed in as much as we possibly can. Of course, do head to the Friends of Comic-Con forum for all the updates when it comes to what they're talking about. And you can, of course, keep an eye on an Englishman in San Diego.com. I am going to be spending a week blitzing this thing. I can see me having 2 hours a day of sleep just to kind of catch up and get everything sorted, because I fly a week on Monday. I'll be heading out to LAX. Oh, go on, Alyssa. What would you like to talk about?
Well,
now?
I'm just reading the comments. Angela Copley said Attack on Titan Season 3 was just announced.
Okay.
So there you go. I don't know. She doesn't say anything else. Yeah, there you go. And Andrew Dickinson is saying take a look at your airline flights and double check, and your hotel. By the way, hotel confirmations from On Peak have been going out. People have been getting notices, so double check on that. I'm going to be checking on my Bayfront on Monday.
Yeah.
And so
we're also going to be. What's that? Sorry.
I'm sorry, to Alyssa, like, you got the Bayfront?
Yes, a friend of mine got an extra room at the Bayfront.
Ah, that's awesome. I mean, I can't complain. I can't complain because I'm staying at the Marina, but it's like Bayfront was my #1 choice. But, you know, maybe next year.
I was hoping for the Hilton gas lamp. That was I prefer to be on the other side of the tracks. So anyway, moving on to keep Leonard under 2 hours.
It's not going to happen.
Leonard, back to you.
Okay, yeah, it was just a case of saying thank you very much indeed for joining us today. We are going to be talking about films of Comic-Con and those to be announced panels. Of course, it is going to be a scheduled show next week, so we are going to be covering all of the schedules, or as much as we possibly can of the schedules in a show next week. We're also going to be joined by Helen O'Hara from Empire Magazine to talk about those TBA announcements. So we'll see what her informed opinion will be about what we could actually be seeing from people like Warner Brothers, Marvel, etc., etc. So all of that starts rolling out as of Wednesday, Thursday, with all the panel announcements. We're also going to be paying close attention as well to social media, because at this point, as far as I'm aware, nobody has yet landed a Saturday badge for Conan. So we are going to be paying close attention to that. Hopefully we'll get some updates from that in the next couple of days. So thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Alyssa, where can people find you online?
At Friends of CCI for my Twitter handle, and at www.friendsofcc.com.
Excellent stuff. And I know that we have kind of kept Andy on a leash. This has not been good. Because Andy is always best when he's left to roam free like an excited little puppy, talking about stuff and really getting involved in the show. But we have had a lot to talk about, so we kind of had to. He was just, you could see him in the corner of the screen just going, I want to talk now.
No, I raised my hand once because I had a question for Rob, but then he kind of like answered already. So like I was like I don't want to interrupt. So I'm just gonna like pretend I'm back in high school, just like awkwardly raising my hand.
Rob talks in paragraphs. Absolutely. He's definitely long form.
But it's been a pleasure to have you on the show again. Thank you so much indeed for coming on, especially talking about the stuff you are very much passionate about. Where can people find you online, Andy?
Well, first of all, thank you for always having me on. I'm always having a blast coming on the show. People can find me on Twitter at AndyBack. That's all for my handle for Facebook and Twitter too. And if you want to see all the works I do for Hollywood, the Flash podcast, the Mulleport, the DC Podcast Network, it's all on my bio. You just click on the handles and just follow those pages.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much indeed for your time. And for myself, you can find me on all the social medias, mostly at Englishman SDCC, and you can find my work at anenglishmaninsandiego.com. As always, if you would like to support us and what we do here on the Hangout, please head to patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC. Thank you so much indeed for joining us today. I know it's been a little bit of a hodgepodge of a show, but I think at this point, everyone is just getting so excited, and there's just been so much to talk about. And we could have carried on going. There is so much that's been announced this week. We're going to try and cover as much as we can. We might even do, I haven't mentioned this to Alyssa yet, but I was hoping that perhaps we might try and organize something for Thursday as just kind of like a midweek catch up, because I can imagine there's going to be so much more to talk about this week. What do you say? What do you say we do an incidental?
I can do that. Let's do it.
Okay. We'll sort this out in the next couple of days. Keep your eye on Englishman SDCC on Twitter, because I'll do my best to get that organized, and we'll do an incidental show in the middle of the week, because yeah, not that long to go. I fly a week on Monday, which means we are going to be doing the show in 2 weeks' time from Disney D23. And this is where I'm now going to put an open shout out. I'm looking for somebody who isn't going to Disney D23, who has a laptop or a computer that is willing to host the show. Basically, I will give you my login details, and you host and direct the show, and we will be the live reports, because I know that Alyssa's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Well, I think Alyssa's going to be there. I know that she's kind of not sure now.
Contact Leonard if you are willing to do it, and we'll see what needs to happen.
We'll see what needs to happen.
Dodge
Basically,
question.
yeah, but basically, we'd like somebody to possibly help us out with directing the show. That would be rather handy. But more details on that as I post something in the next couple of days. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. More stuff to talk about next week in terms of schedules. Keep your eye on CCI on comic-con.org because, of course, all the official announcements start rolling out Thursday. It's going to be a busy week. Do take care. Enjoy the rest. And, of course, happy 4th of July, everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy yourself. Overindulge. And have yourself a great time.
No, don't overindulge. SDCC.
Yes, overindulge. For one day, you can overindulge.
Bye.
Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.